Hello and welcome to the Better Leaders Show. Today I'm talking to Gerardo Segat. Welcome, Gerardo.
Hi, Anna. Thank you.
Gerardo, I should probably say,
Gerardo.
right? It's an Italian name, huh?
Yes, it is. I'm Italian.
Yeah. So the topic that you are interested in is in leadership, and you gave it like a interesting spin because you talk about humanizing leadership. And my first reaction was, "What do you mean? Isn't leadership human today?" So why do we need to humanize leadership?
Well, I think that, if leadership was more humanized, we would live in a better world. That's to answer straight your question. So leadership is human today because it's done by humans.
Right.
I'd say that there is room for maybe improvement, for making more human, you know. I think that sometimes we wake up as human beings. We have, breakfast, do whatever, shower, and then when we leave the house, we forget the human being at home, and we only carry with us the leader being. Okay, so if there was more connection between the leader being and the human being in every leader, that would be for me more humanized leadership and therefore a better world.
So you say if we had human leadership, we would live in a better world. So let's give like one or two examples of the two opposites, right? Leaders who are really human and leaders who could be a better human. So how would you define that? How would you give two examples?
Well, I'm not sure I have in mind some specific people. It is more the behavior, if you want,
Who shows the behavior that you're looking for?
I think any leader who, shows empathy, brings all the what is called soft skills or human skill at their office, or anywhere, not necessarily only at the office. So any leader with strong human skills would be that leader. And probably also any leader who, together with setting himself or herself some objectives, let's say what I call outer objectives. So, growth, success, power, money, big business, etc. Also has some inner objectives that keep them very close and tight with the human being.
What if you look at what you said? If we would have more human leadership, we would have a better world. What kind of things do you feel today in the world originate from not good leadership, from not human leadership?
Well, I think, look, I think that somehow that's very human, in the sense that, I think we do it all the time from wearing masks, judging, ignoring, blaming, destroying, attacking, all these things, shouting. All these things are, some kind of behaviors that we do as leaders here and there. Some people more, some people less. I think those are behaviors that arise from fears. Again, fear is very human. But at the same time, that's also the reason why we require, and it would be better if leaders take this kind of inner journey to try and let's say minimize, sort out these fears, minimize and therefore minimize those kind of behaviors. So there isn't, the ideal or the perfect, but there is a continuous work on trying to improve if you want. If there is a loud discussion in the office or somebody's pushing a button to launch a missile, that all, that both come from fears,
When you are a coach now since 2016, if I'm right, and before that you had your own company. You work into the international tax area. Why did you sell your business and start working as a coach? What was the trigger for you for there?
It was that somehow I got to, let's say because of life events, I've taken a direction that is not necessarily a direction that belonged to me. And at that time, I said, okay, I want to be a successful entrepreneur. And for me, successful entrepreneur meant, as I said, setting up a big business, lots of people, lots of money, lots of these external sign, success. And at the time that I got there, I said, okay, but, this is not really meaningful. This is not fulfilling. This is not, And so this is why I changed somehow. Initially, I felt this as adding a little bit more human into my work. I felt I needed something a bit more human than what I was doing before. But the reality is that what I needed is much more connection with my human being, okay? And probably start looking and setting myself some inner objectives, not necessarily only outer. So, inner goals. What do I want? Meaning, love, freedom, certainty, this kind of things.
And this was impossible to find in your business at that time?
No, it was impossible for me to find it. Not in that business. Obviously, I started this business, and then this business grew up and became quite a big business. 400 people in operation, 10 offices around the world. I was very much involved, and I think I needed to get out. And by the way, at the time that I started to exit, I didn't have a clear idea what to do. I just felt the need to say, okay, I'm going to close this door, turn the page, and then, give myself some space to watch around and decide what to do.
And what did you do in that time? Did you do something specific? Did you go to the mountains and sit still, or what did you do something specific?
No, I just allowed myself. I was lucky enough to be able to do that. I just allowed myself the space. It means the time. I just allowed myself the time and possibility that what was meant for me and what really belonged to me showed up. And this is what I did, so I started, talking to people about coaching. Then I quite liked it. Then I re-qualified as a coach. And then I started, working as a leadership coach. But that is part of the path, okay? Now where I'm standing today, I actually feel, okay, this is my way. This is what it is for me. What was there for me, but somehow, as I said, because of life events, I was taking a different direction. Unfortunately, I think that in a world where, especially at the beginning, when we grow up, um, somehow education has an impact, Yeah, I'm talking about education, I mean parents, but any kind of shaping the individual, no? Religion, school, parents, all these things um, take you to a certain direction. Now, the issue here is that um, most of them, what they look at, what you get taught is outer, you know. This is what, you go to school. What's important is the mark that you take. The mark is an outcome, is not what really counts. Okay, so you grow up with no attention, with no education about looking inside of. And therefore, in my case, I had a very difficult, youth. My dad died when I was 6. My mom died when I was 15. She was sick. I didn't have any money. I was organizing parties in clubs in Milan to earn my money to pay for my education. I was really struggling, And so there was an entrepreneur in my blood because of my dad. And at the same time, I said, okay, I want to make it, But what does it mean, make? Nobody taught me what it means. Or, if you look at the TV, if you look, there were no mobiles at that time. But, if you look at the TV, read the newspaper, listen to people at school, wherever you go, this is the kind of mess, outer, 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 outer. Okay? And so you go outer. And this is what I did.
And it still is, isn't it?
It still is. It still is. And, in fact, I think, and you see it very much in leadership, and, it is like this everywhere. Leadership, has a much greater impact because obviously we're talking about the people who take decision and who are point of references of other people, who lead people, who influence, so it is very much like this. And this is what I mean humanize. Humanize means more contact, more contact with the inner human being of any leader.
Right. Well, I talked about this podcast before about the inner development goals, or the IDGs, which are connected to the Sustainable Development Goals. So the inner development goals, I think, is exactly what you're talking about. It is about developing yourself on, in this case, a framework of 23 skills. And the skills are collected with an idea that these skills will help you to have like a bigger impact, to change the world, to make it a better world, like you just described before. Like if you have more humanized leadership, we will have a different world. And I really love that part. I think it's the same reason why we have this company renamed to Better Humans, and have this show and this offering on better leaders, because we also feel that if we can help people to become better leaders, they can help teams, their members, their team members, their employees, their followers, to become better humans, right? So I think that's going to have a huge impact on the world if we pay attention to the inner part of the human. And we see the IDGs now also implemented into schools, higher education beginning, but still it's schools. So the part that you have been missing in your youth, same as me, obviously, I think that it's changing slowly right now, because we see that the world that we live in is not something that we can continue in this way. If we want to have like a world, a planet that is livable for all human beings in the future.
Yes. Sometimes when I talk to people, they always tell me, change. when we talk about change, they say, things will change because the world goes in a certain direction, and therefore, we will adapt. And just to add on what you were saying, if you're looking where we are heading, and I say AI just because it is probably the biggest one, but the reality is AI, is a threat. And if we're going to be, number one, AI is a threat, and therefore we need to do something about it. Okay, and then what do? Whenever there is threat, let's get together and do something about it. So the reality is AI will push us towards more humanized leadership. Okay. Also because what makes us different from AI is our humanity. I was a friend of mine recently, was sharing something. He asked ChatGPT what would be the kind of human intelligences that would be least likely for AI to surpass humans. And he asked that to ChatGPT. The kind of answer he got for ChatGPT was naturalistic intelligence, bodily kinesthetic intelligence, interpersonal intelligence, intrapersonal intelligence, existential intelligence. Okay, now in all five of them, in the definition, there is a word that, from my point of view, is the leadership skill of the future, and it's the word awareness. Okay? Awareness of the body, awareness of the nature, awareness of others, between brackets, empathy, awareness of yourself, awareness of your existence. So that's why I think in the future, there will be more and more. It's a trend that will continue more and more, also pushed by these technological changes.
Right. I agree. And I've also been talking to philosophers. I think if you want to look at a different future away from the structure that we are in now, like almost encaged, you need philosophers and artists to show you the way to a new future, a different future. And also, a couple of philosophers are saying, well, it may be too late, that we cannot change it anymore. So that's not a positive outside. But in the meantime, we can work with the things that we know. And like you said, use the awareness part as humans to at least try to find a different route than we are at now.
I think that until we don't take the decision to say, okay, for me, a fundamental change is setting yourself inner objectives. Because then once you have inner objectives, then you obviously go and develop, and you have more interest, and it's important and it's essential to develop those human skills, that you were talking before. But if I don't have an objective to say, okay, what do I want? What are my, what are my goals? What are my inner goals? How do I want to feel? What do I want to get to? Okay, I want meaning in my life. Something that I did for myself, and then now I've done also for clients. And by the way, I also do it during the show. Is we all have these harmful behaviors. If you take these harmful behaviors and the fear attached, you try to get to the ultimate fears. That's also something, because we normally stop. You say, okay, I fear this or I fear that. But the reality is, if you continue to ask yourself, okay, but why do I fear that? Or why do I behave in that way? And you continue, why? I personally got to those four things, which for me are, the ultimate fears of a leader. And it is being meaningless. So meaningless, loneliness, dependency from something or somebody, and uncertainty. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I just flip them. Say, okay, but this is what I want. What do I want? Meaning, inner love, inner freedom, inner certainty. Inner, not outer. So inner love. Loving myself, not trying to compensate the lack of self-love with the love or seeking the love of somebody else. No? And then this balancing. So I just say, these, to give an example, these are inner objectives. And once you have those inner objectives, automatically, if you want to find inner meaning, and it is automatic that you step into developing human skills and bringing your human being with yourself everywhere you go, not leaving it at home in the just when you go to bed or when you wake up.
Yeah. I also mentioned if we're looking for a different future, we're looking into the arts. You have an idea, you're working an idea, combining performing arts, coaching, and storytelling. What is performing arts? How does it look for you?
Well, I was thinking about creating something that would impact or affect world leaders, and I thought, okay, the essence of my work is questions. And I said, okay, what can I add on that? If I go out there and talk about the problems of the world, this is things that, they say all the time, or they hear all the time. If I go and talk about the story of other people, yes, maybe for a little moment there is an impact, but not so much. What really counts is their own story. Okay, so I created this show that combines, as you said, performing arts, storytelling, and coaching questions. And it develops around some elements of intimate humanity. So heart, hug, tears, fragility, death, soul, words like this. And for each of those words is like a journey inside your personal story around those items, where for each of these items there is a question, there is a little story, I say, and there is a performing arts. So there is poetry, there is dancing, there is singing, there is animation, there are different things. Arts has a tremendous part. I think arts just put ourselves into a situation where our defense barrier, whatever they are, go down in 1 second. Okay, the reason why I put performing arts in this show and not simply the question is because performing arts would, the reality is they open the door, they take away the defense, and the question then is able to arrive deep down the person.
That's interesting. Sounds beautiful. So on what platforms do you want to meet these world leaders? Where do you want to meet them?
It's an in-person show, on demand, 1.5 hours. I put together a team. I knew nothing about theater so I put together a team of people. There is a scenography, there is a show director, actors, dancer, singer, all of that, put together a team of people, and we worked on that. I also did some training with an acting coach. So I'm not an actor. I still won't be, but I have to I had to improve. I still need to improve, but and so we put together this. We started writing it with a script writer, professional script writer, and then we put it together, did some rehearsal, and now we travel. We travel the world, and the objective is to take and feature the show during World Leaders Convention, hopefully one day not too far. But it is available to corporates, so we take it to corporates to make people experience what is called psychological safety. Okay, during the show there are moments where people share fragilities. Share intimate fragilities, or share dream, or share, they write apologies, they share apologies. So it's so it is for corporates or for conventions, and we'll see where we get.
If you are now at the start of 2024, well, we all are. The beginning of this year, what is it that you want to accomplish this year for your coaching and for this show, this huge show that you're trying to set up?
What do I want to accomplish? Okay, I'm going to describe to you a scenario that this is what I would like. Okay, I'd like to feature this show, take a G10 meeting, G20, G8 meeting, okay? So people, those big leaders gather together, okay, and say, they have the dinner, and then the day after they're sitting and taking major decisions about the world. What I would like is that the show is featured as part of the side program of the meeting, like, the first evening, one of the evening. And so those people share this kind of experience, okay? They share their own intimate fragilities. They say sorry to each other, because during the show, this is what you do. There is a moment where I actually ask the people to write an apology note to a member in the audience, okay? And so I want them to live this kind of experience, do this, okay? And then go to bed. And the morning after, when they wake up, drink the coffee, and then sit in a room, and with a different way of interacting with each other. Not different people. That's not my objective. But certainly a different way of interaction. Listening more, understanding more, being more, open to other people's idea, and interact in a different way, and therefore take different decisions.
How do you think that this will affect their decision making? How do you think that their decisions will change this year with your show? I mean,
when you say how, you mean what is going to make them interact in a different way?
No, how they will make better decisions for.
Well, I don't go into the specific detail. It's not me, but certainly I say if I'm able to change the interaction, the way the people interact, and somebody is more open to other people's opinion, and finding a compromise, less sticking to his own opinion or his own profit or his own, I think the general way is that the show will certainly make people less selfish and more altruistic. Okay? And, if you put a bunch of people discussing something and they are more altruistic, the decision is, for sure, it will be better. Now, the details, I'm not sure. I don't know, and I'm not to be honest, I'm not so much concerned. Okay? But if that show can be quite powerful the evening before, and have certain things, but say sharing intimate fragilities, this is a very tough thing. Are they going to do it? That's the bet. I say yes. I say yes. Okay, because not only from past experience, but I had situations like this with those kind of people. Okay, and I've seen them like any other human being. Any other human being. They're no different. If there is a guy that presses a button to launch a missile, it's not something incredible. He probably has a fear. He's a human being.
I can see the imagery and the pictures of what you're painting for me now, the scenery you're painting with this performance, and also the conversations and the saying sorry, or talking about death, or talking about grief, or talking about uncertainty. I can see how this would change these people. And also, I see how valuable this can be within any organization to really go into the fears of people and to discover what you are about, and to work on the inner part of you, like the inner meaning, for example, like you mentioned. And that's going to be a completely different future for organizations, for people, for the world.
I want to tell you one thing, because I think one of the misconceptions that we have, is that we think that being authentic or being deeply authentic is so difficult. Okay, my experience is completely opposite. Okay, my experience, I've been in board meetings, I've been in virtually events with unknown people, where people have shared intimate fragilities after half an hour. Why? Because we're all humans, and we're just, waiting for an opportunity to be ourselves and take out the mask and be able to share everything and to be how we are. Okay? And we're just looking forward, even those leaders, even the guys sitting at the G8 or G20, okay? Maybe even more than, because they will never get an opportunity. Okay? And hopefully maybe the show will be that kind of opportunity. But, I was recently in London, doing a kind of one of the things that I do is I go to boards of banks or corporates and talk about vulnerability. Okay, and it's 1 hour. Okay, and I went to this bank, the board of this bank, and there were 3 other boards connected on Zoom. People got in the boardroom, didn't even say hello, didn't even come and greet. They sat, they didn't even know why they were there. Okay, half an hour I talked about what it means to corporates, vulnerability, what changes, what are the effects, the results, and all of that. And the other half an hour, we just shared experience. I shared my intimate fragility. The people shared theirs. Yeah, but we're talking about sexual violence, mental disorders. There were people crying in the room. Okay, people crying, hugging each other. The CEO, we're talking about one of the largest Swiss banks. Okay, the CEO wrote me an email to say, look, thank you very much for coming here. We're going to take, we have to change things in this bank to make, a completely different working environment where people feel free to open up and to be themselves, etc., etc. The reality is to create that space is very simple. It doesn't take, it's very simple. Lead by example. You know, if I'm sitting in a group of people and I share my intimate fragility, people will do exactly the same. Why? Because they see, okay, you know, that so, and so people find themselves maybe sharing this thing in just after half an hour to a guy who comes and does, you know, is not, that maybe they had difficulty in sharing with best friends, parents, or whatever. But not because, simply because to create that safe space, you need to lead by example. So if I am vulnerable, if I am deeply authentic, if I share, the other people will do exactly the same.
Yeah, and that brings us back full circle with authentic leadership, right? If you, as a leader, are authentic, or open, or vulnerable, the people that follow you will do the same, because they see a safe space where they can just open up and share, right?
Or or that's something that happened to me and I value it even more.
Mm.
Or they come to you and say, I am sorry. I actually can't do it. Okay? But instead they don't stay silent and simply sit there. They come to you and say, look, you know, I wish I could, but I can't. And that's a first step. Okay, because you know, if tomorrow something like this happens, they will do, and then at a certain point the same guy will do it.
That's a beautiful addition. Great. Okay. If people want to learn about your work, about this idea of humanizing leadership, about the work with you do, which you just mentioned, with the combination of performing arts and coaching questions and storytelling, they can go to your website. Gerardo Segat is GerardoSegat.com. But if you've watched the video, it's also here, and I've made it also easier. So if you watch the video, you can just use this QR code and scan it, and you just directly go to the website of Gerardo, and you look about the projects he's doing with the ideas, the performing arts, and talk to him, send him a message, and ask, because every time we get a step closer to your boldest dream for this year, the scenario that you have for the G8 or the G20, to do this with them, I think that's going to be just beautiful. Anybody who can help you to take a step in that direction, I think is just going to be wonderful, right?
Yeah,
So,
thank you, thank you, Erno, and you know, everyone.
well, thank you for sharing. And as I showed before, thank you for Dr. Tanya Lowe and Geraldo Doyle for joining us, at least the ones that commented below. And for now, I want to say this video will be published also with the audio next Monday on betterleaders.me. There you can find it. And as always, thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Geraldo. And
Thank
see
you.
you next Friday at 9 a.m. Central US time, or 4 p.m. Central European time. See you next week. Bye.
Bye bye.